And we're here talking about a very important subject matter, and it's a four-part series, and this is our third part. We started with Damon Jones, who is one of the blacks of law enforcement of America, and he's brought two of his peers, his colleagues, with him today. And we're going to introduce them. They're back in the studio, and that is retired Detective Sergeant Anthony Mitchell, as well as former White Plains Police Officer Michael Hannon. And they are here along with Damon Jones, and they represent blacks in law enforcement of America. And we just got through doing a nice piece of, bringing it really home. And now we're talking about voting, we're talking about education, and we're talking about how it matters. And even though we're talking about racism, and even though we're talking about law enforcement, and even though we're talking about what needs to be addressed, I think it's real important that sometimes the truth has to be told, and in the way that it needs to be told, even if it's graphically. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I right?
Yes.
So now let's talk about this vote, because some people, again, they don't believe that their vote counts. But you are right. Voting does count.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Well, they have to vote. I mean, if you want your community to be policed a certain way, and you want to have a voice, your voice is through voting, because the elected officials in your community or your county or state government are the ones who are passing the policies, are the ones who hire the commissioners, hire the police management, who create the police policies. So I think voting, is a proper way to exercise your right and exercise your voice in how your community should be policed.
Not only that, a lot of us, we've been fortunate that we've had law enforcement officers such as Damon, Michael, and myself. We need more and more young African American males and females, Hispanic males and females, to get involved in law enforcement. The numbers are dwindling. And even though it's a tough profession in terms of dealing with the racist issues inside, it's needed in our communities.
Of course.
There's no better place to police than my community. As a police officer, as a detective, as a sergeant, I enjoyed policing my community, and the respect, it was different because I held true to who I was. The problem a lot of times with officers is they try to assimilate.
That's what I was going to get to. Thank you for bringing it up, because honestly, I was getting ready to say you have some that are a part of the status quo. And becoming part of the status quo, now you have to compromise, because if you don't, you'll lose what? Maybe your paycheck. Maybe you'll lose how to provide for your family. It's all kinds of things may run through their minds, right? So what do you say in regards to that, Damon? Because I know we talked about that a little bit, that a lot of these younger officers, because you guys have been in the law enforcement for some time, even though you look like young teenagers, but but you have been in law enforcement for some decades now.
Right. Well, I came up in a different era of law enforcement than these two gentlemen. When I came in, the law enforcement, the black law enforcement officers, they were in their prime, but they were out of the Black Power era.
Meaning?
So, meaning the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement, they were activists in their community. They wasn't looked at as law enforcement. They were looked at as being activists in their community.
Wait a minute. So are you telling me the black spook who sat at the door, okay, they became activists strategically, or are you saying that
no, they were activists when they got the job? Yeah. I mean, they were activists when they got the job. So coming up under them, I couldn't be any different. But those type of activist officers, they're retired. They're gone. They're dead. They're not here anymore. I mean, Mitch had the opportunity to meet Roger Abel. I don't think, Mike, you ever met Roger Abel, but we came up. We caught what I call one of the godfathers of black law enforcement when a couple of years before he passed us, and the knowledge that he gave us was amazing. Phenomenal. to give back to our community and to challenge the status quo in law enforcement. So when they look at these young black officers and we sit down in the meeting and Roger would say, listen, when you go into the meeting, say A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Right. And I go in there and I say it the same way he said it, and the response, I'm like, wow, this guy, you know. So you have faith in what you do, and then it makes you study more. And then it makes you research more, you know. And then when you have somebody like that that's giving you all this information, you know, because at the end of the day, it's the same circus. Yeah. Just different clowns.
That's true.
The same games that they played in the 50s and 60s. They're playing the same games now.
Wow.
So and that's why you have to have mentors. You have to be connected to the elders in your law enforcement community, because they've seen it all. These young officers now, they don't think they need the older officers.
Until they get in trouble.
Until they get in trouble. Right. You know, so they don't come around. They don't come around me. I'm the radical. You know, I'm the one they say, he's a radical. But when they behind getting the jam,
first person they call.
I'm the first person they call.
I can attest to that because, and even in Mount Vernon, where the majority, Mount Vernon probably has the most black officers in Westchester County. But even there, they didn't want to even associate with Damon. I was one of the few officers that did, because the knowledge was there. You were learning from Roger Abel. You were learning from Ron Hampton. You were learning from these gentlemen and Damon himself. They didn't want to listen to that until they got in trouble. Once they got in trouble, Mitch, do you think you could reach out to Damien? And I'd give Damien a call, regardless of what the situation. If we thought it was unfair, it wasn't a black and white issue then.
No.
Right.
It was, if this was unfair, we're going to stand by you.
Right.
You know? But
it's interesting because as you were talking and as you were sharing, it brought to mind what the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, and I might misquote it, but basically he was saying that unless a man can live for something and be willing to die for what, you know, like in other words, to be willing to die for what you believe in, you know, then that means that you have a life worth living.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So it's almost, that's what it sounds like when you said you had these sort of men that, or people that were in black, you know, in law enforcement, that were black in law, and they came up to really say, no, we're gonna let our voice be heard, and now it carries on, but now the carrying on is now letting the other officers know what that means, and that must be very trying. When we come back from this break, I want to talk about more of what do you see in the next year or so in terms of this law enforcement, you know, blacks in America, you know, blacks in law enforcement of America and all of the other agencies. Will everyone finally come together and unify and get to be one voice with every other voice from the grassroots level in the communities, because we're all shouting one voice now. And when we come back, I want to hear your feelings on that. We'll be right back. Don't tune away. We're back. Welcome back. Like I said, I want to hear about the blacks in law enforcement, and if it's one of their strategies, or if one of their goals is to unify with all of the other law enforcement agencies to become one voice. You know, whether it's white, whether it's whatever those particulars are, because I'm not saying that this is not a black and white thing, because I already know that it's about enslavement, it's about oppression, it's about discrimination, racism. We know what it's all about, and it is what it is. I mean, I want to read something to you before you answer this. It says that the history of American African, and I wrote this. Okay.
Okay.
Amen. And I Facebooked this. So
it's an original.
It's original. Okay. This came from my heart, and it's for all people. This is the history of American Africans. Sad but true. Now the time is to expose graphically the truth. So those who have joined the status quo to believe that black on black crime should be part of the agenda, you have bought into the big lie. It was all a setup from the very beginning. Now it's time to learn the American African history. which has always been to enslave, oppress, and dehumanize. The question, how do we stop the oppression, enslavement, and dehumanization of blacks in America? It's been said only the oppressed can stop the oppressor.
Really good.
Let me touch on that. Let me say this. One of the first things we have to understand is that there's a concerted effort by the media as well. And when they say there's 90% black on black crime, they fail to mention that is approximately 85% white on white crime. So you don't hear, if I want you to believe something, I'm only going to give you that information. You have to look past it. You have to really read into everything. Unfortunately, the media will highlight the robberies in low-income areas. And that's what you have to look at also. It's not only just racism, it's class warfare.
Classism.
And you know, white or black, if you can't afford to do certain things, then you're not going to get certain benefits.
That's right.
That's why it's so important to vote. It's so important to be educated. And I tell every kid, and I've been doing this I did it for over 10 years when I was teaching a law enforcement course. I told every kid, in whatever state you live in, read the New York State law book. It's legal. That's what the cops use. Know your laws.
That's good info.
Know your rights. Read that in your Constitution. You'll have a better understanding about what we do.
That's interesting.
And what we can do.
Did you hear about, well, it was a case, or the recent case, and they said that one of the prosecutors actually misquoted the law. I thought that was amazing, you know, but someone brought it out in media. That's why we do what we're doing. I think it was it was Mike Brown's case. But I want to hear from, you know, you, Officer Hannon.
Okay, we got so many. What's the question you want me to answer?
That the question is that it's been said that the only way to stop oppression is it will be at the hands of the oppressed to stop the oppressor.
Right. Oh, that's what the civil rights movement was about. That's what the Underground Railroad before that was about. That's what. But you have to remember, you had good whites, as you do today, Quakers, and civil rights. A lot of them. I'm reading a book now, the Freedom Riders. There was a lot of good whites that got beat up alongside blacks on Bloody Sunday. On on things in our past. So we do need to come together as one. The problem we have as blacks in law enforcement is these mayors won't meet with us. A lot of these police chiefs won't meet with us.
You mean the organization or
the police departments? They won't. Yeah, they won't meet with us. You know, the mayors of these, they won't meet with us. So how do we get on one accord with mayors that won't refuse to meet with us, or when we have conferences, community police relations, they fail to show up?
That's right. I can give you a story of actual happened. As a member of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America, I approached at that time the chief of my department, the Mount Vernon Police Department, and I advised her about some of the issues concerning black officers. Now, at that time, I was a homicide detective in one of the most successful homicide units in New York State. We solved approximately 75% of our homicides. I approached her and let her know about some of the issues as a representative of the organization about the lack of training for black officers, the lack of acknowledgement, the lack of opportunities in the police department. I spoke to her in May. I went on vacation in June, came back in July, and they had transferred me out of the homicide unit. Then that homicide unit from that point has been disbanded. From that point on, Mount Vernon's homicide unit has been one of the worst in the county and the state.
That's a conspiracy.
Well, he was disciplined for speaking up. He was disciplined, which many blacks are.
Right. But I wasn't actually disciplined. My job was just move.
Well, that's what they
strategically.
Yeah, that's strategically move. But that's a discipline move or a slap on the wrist. We don't want you complaining.
So what about our politicians? I mean, do they? Well, my question is this: we have African Americans that are politicians that also. I mean, however you want to look at it, I'm saying, what can we do to enforce that our politicians that are voted in, for those who do vote, because what do you recommend? What do you suggest? What
I recommend you vote them out. because yeah. You have in Westchester County. No. You got to understand the dynamics of Westchester black politics. You're only going to get certain seats that you're going to have black politicians. It's not so. You put that black politician in there, you could replace him with another black politician because there are only certain districts that's going to have a black politician. Think about it. Just think where they're at. You're going to have Mount Vernon, and you're going to have Yonkers, right? In the state senate, we only got 2 black state senators in Westchester: Ruth Hassel Thompson and Andrew Stewart Cousins. That's right. Ruth Hassel Thompson is a complete black district. Why is she still there if she's not speaking out? Huh? So it's up to it goes back to the people. It goes back to the people. If you feel that politician is not doing what they're supposed to do for your interests, then you vote. Then you run somebody against them. Maybe they get scared because they might just win.
Scam straight.
Right, scam straight. Or they'll lose their seat. And why do we play around?
Well, let me say this, though. You just said that our people don't vote. So who's voting for them?
Well, there's always a certain class of people that's going to vote, but the people that's actually affected do not vote.
Look at the numbers.
Right. Look at the numbers.
Look at the numbers.
Okay.
Because if you have 70,000 people in a district and only
4,000 people vote, nobody's voting.
That's my friends. I have 4,000 friends. And
you're on Facebook.
Think about look. Think about this.
I mean, this is not no laughing thing here. This is serious.
Look at the Mount Vernon mayor race. He won by 3,500 votes.
He won the primary by only 100.
Wow. So if you have 60,000, 70,000 people in the city and only 7,000 people come out and vote for a mayor, those are the property owners. Those are the people. Right.
Those are the people. Those are the taxmen.
They have a vested interest.
So you know what?
If only 150 people voted for the projects, are you kidding me?
And let me make this clear again. Once again, when they wrote in on putting black officers in a job. They wrote in on that, but they don't secure that.
Right.
You understand? I came in. I hired the most black officers. But then when there's issues going on that affect the community,
you can't find
it. Falls on deaf ears.
Wow. We're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we're going to wrap it up with some interesting, we're going to, like you said, politics and voting is very important. That might just be one of the answers. We'll be right back. This is good. This is good. Don't you tune away. This is good. This is good. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are here with Damon, Anthony, and Michael. And Dana, you got a question about
we were talking about it is essential to vote, and the community and our Afro-American individuals have to vote if we want to see change and invoke change. I actually go into Westchester County Correctional Facility, and a lot of our young black men, they're not aware that they can vote after they come off of parole, after they are no longer on probation. So I believe as a group of clergy members, as well as law enforcement, we need to also inform these young men they have the opportunity to vote for some of the laws and the legislative situations that are arising against them. But I think that you gentlemen in law enforcement, it's essential that men like yourself have a voice and speak out in our community to invoke change.
Right.
The ultimate goal is change.
Right. I do agree, and we're going to deputize you. So you're talking to the inmates because Rikers Island has a program on election day. They come in and give absentee ballots to those inmates that's there on misdemeanors. So they can vote. They go into the jail and they bring them down and they allow them to vote. There was an organization that does. I'm going to forward the organization because Westchester County has failed to do it.
Well, then it's time that we make so here we go. We're getting to some answers. I mean, it might not be the end all to be all, but it's a start.
Right.
It's a start because we know what the problems are. And like I said, graphically all over Facebook, we see, the killings, the lynchings. We can go back into our history. But now, bringing it up to where we are, 21st century, what are we going to do, men? What are we going to do, men of law?
People need to start following the cases, too. You see these police shoot these or beat people up or whatever they're doing, violating their rights. Follow the cases and make sure the politicians are doing their job. Because if you're going to write your politician or vote them out, you need to know what they did. So people need to start reading the paper, most of these court TV, whatever, on the internet, Facebook, and follow these cases from start to finish.
And then be able to voice it and talk about it.
Or articulate it on paper to your politician. Why wasn't this person found guilty for violating that young man or woman of color?
Damon?
Well, I think it's all about education. You know, it's all about different methods to educate our people and what we need to do to change our community. You know, like we talked earlier about the whole, you know, black on black crime, and they're trying to throw that out. But, you know, you can't arrest the problems away in the black community. What we have is not a policing problem, it's a social problem, because our issues are social issues. The lack of education, the lack of the job creation, the lack of economic development, those are social issues. So when you have all those social issues in one community, you have crime and violence. And as far as the institution, I think President Obama, Eric Holder, they're going to have to recreate the institution of policing. Is broken. That's like saying that you're going to put a piece of you're going to bake a cake and remember that you forgot the eggs and crack the eggs and put it on top of the cake and think that you're going to eat the cake. No, you have to bake the cake all over with the right ingredients. That's what Obama needs to do with Eric Holder, is create a justice system, create a policing institution with the right ingredients of justice in it, and then we all can change. Until they do that, we're going to see more killings. We're going to see more leaders getting front page and news, and nothing will change, and more black men will die.
And with final remarks,
I have to piggyback on what Mike said and Damien. You know, we have to become informed, and it's upon all of us to inform. We need to have a collective group of people to sit down. I'm talking about pastors. I'm talking about politicians. I'm talking about law enforcement. To sit down and discuss how we're going to
entertainment too. Don't leave about entertainment.
And entertainment,
media,
more
arts.
importantly.
That's right.
And media, and we need to sit down and discuss how we're going to approach this problem. And I'm not just talking about blacks. I'm talking about blacks, whites, Hispanic, American Indian. Every ethnic group needs to sit down, because we all have issues. And it's not just us that have issues with law enforcement. There are whites that have issues with law enforcement. Theirs just are not as devastating as ours are. Okay? Because when you have a person that, as a law enforcement officer, that abuses his powers and he's not punished, like the kid in the candy store, I'm going to take more and more.
That's right.
So these prosecutors, which I have no faith in, because regardless of whether this officer that killed Eric Gardner or Michael Brown was right or wrong, that wasn't his place to make it. All he had to do as a prosecutor was show there was enough for it to go to trial. And he failed to do that. He doesn't need to be a prosecutor, because the evidence was right there on video. It showed all of us. You're telling me I didn't see what I saw.
Yeah, the consensus is that one voice that the system is broken.
Yes.
And it's time that it be fixed, because they say, why fix what's not broken? But then that means we must fix what is broken.
That's right.
And in order to do that, I like what each and every one of you said about, you know, we all have to come to the table, you know. And with that said, again, is there any final words, 30 seconds from each of you, any final remarks in 30 seconds? I like each of you to take and talk right into the screen one at a time, 30 seconds.
I'll
please.
start. Vote, stay informed, tell your young black men that they will not win a street encounter with a police officer. So you should try to do your best to adhere to everything he or she is commanding you, so you can live the encounter.
I hope that people will stay engaged. I hope it's just not just for the fad or for the moment. For more information on laws or what's going on around your country, you can visit Blacks in Law Enforcement of America. Our website is bleausa.org. You can reach out to our organization. The number is 914-525-5288.
My message is to the young people. First, educate yourself, prepare yourself, move forward. Next, my message is to the politicians, entertainers, other law enforcement agencies. Sit down at the table. The pastors, religious organizations, grassroots organizations, sit down at the table and let's make a change. Let's make a difference that's better for all Americans, not just some Americans.
That's great. Dana, you want to say something?
I just would like to say that we touched on a lot of topics today, and you viewers that are viewing us, please recognize this is a very serious issue. It may not be your daughter or your son that's affected, but ultimately live life a little longer, and sooner or later you will be affected.
Yes. And with that said, I want to thank you all for coming. You will get another chance at another time to, see how far we've gotten. I thank you so much, Damon, for recognizing the need and the role for this. And again, as a media journalist, I'm much, much passionate about empowering people, all people. That's why I do what I do here at Total Faith Network. And with that said, thank you for tuning in. My co-host, Dana Rose, and we are so grateful. Total Faith Network, we're about to do something really, really big in the upcoming year, so stay tuned for more information. And again, go to www.totalfaithnetwork.com. Go to the contact form, inform us, and write us, and talk to us, and let us know how you feel about the issues that are going on in your community. And we welcome even your prayers. Thank you so much. And again, as I always say, we at Total Faith, TFN, the tagline is what? Everyone wins at TFN. And I can't say this without leaving, or I can't leave without saying this. We at Total Faith, what do? We walk in total faith. And until next time, be blessed, and we will see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.